The Bene Gesserit sisterhood faces huge struggles in the ongoing conflict against its aggressive enemy. The Honored Matres are steadily advancing towards universal domination, leaving destruction in their wake for any faction or planet that dares to oppose them. They have wiped out the entire Tleilaxu faction with Sightale as the sole survivor, held in captivity by the Bene Gesserit. The Honored Matres are now looking to eradicate the sisterhood and to assimilate their technology and skills. Mother Superior DUNEw strategizes how to overcome this threat, while also putting efforts into transforming the planet Chapterhouse to accommodate the crucial sandworms, whose original habitat on Dune was ravaged. In charge of this project is Shiana, who anticipates the imminent emergence of the worms. On Chapterhouse, Odrade and her council celebrate the birth of Miles Teg, the first Bene Gesserit Ghola. They aim to restore his memories, helping in their fight against the Honored Matres. There are rumors from planet Gamu that he possessed an extraordinary speed during fights, an ability gained through his Atreides genes. So far, 16 Bene Gesserit planets have been destroyed, while Burzmali and their forces are currently defending planet Lampadas. Odrade is exhausted by the pressure of this situation as she is forced to order the abandonment of another planet due to an imminent attack. The great Honored Matre sits on her throne in the audience chamber once used by the guild navigators, and before her lies a captive Reverend Mother. Dama, also known as the Spider Queen, grows frustrated by the lack of results during the interrogation, the Bene Gesserit being skilled in shielding against probes and pain. She orders the captive to be injected with a potent drug for further interrogation, only to witness her swift demise. Disappointed by the result, she vows to uncover their hiding place, convinced it's only a matter of time. Later, she summons to her chamber her chief advisor, Logno. She seeks updates on the Ixian efforts to replicate some secret weapons. They are planning an assault on Buzul, a Bene Gesserit planet rich in Sue-stones, so she instructs Logno to recruit more smugglers and gather intelligence on the planet's defenses. At the age of 2, Miles Teg already understood he was a Ghola. He enjoyed playing in the orchards and taking walks with Odrade. By age 7, those orchards started to stir something deep within him, triggering a small fraction of his original memories. Odrade tells him how she resurrected him as a Ghola using cell samples from fingernail scrapings. He learns what happened to planet Arrakis and the current efforts of transforming Chapterhouse into a new Dune. Miles Teg shares a tight bond with her, being the only one to show him affection, and he even calls her mother, even though in reality, he is her father. One day, as Odrade sits in her workspace, memories start to flood her mind, providing her with a sense of stability and inner strength. She sees it as a cautionary sign of impending danger, acknowledging the risks of her prescient abilities. The Bene Gesserit are strategically dispersing their agents and sharing memories to prepare for potential encounters with the Honored Matres. She ponders the potential abilities of Miles Teg and Duncan Idaho, realizing the danger their talents pose if discovered by their enemy. She contemplates her role in this delicate balance and finds comfort in the memories of her past. Suddenly, Belanda interrupts with news of the destruction of planet Lampadas, including the loss of Burzmali and his forces. Reverend Mother Lucilla narrowly escaped the devastation on the Bene Gesserit school planet, carrying the collective memories of countless Reverend Mothers. She sought refuge on planet Gamu with the help of a group of Jews led by Rabbi, who was in good relationships with the Bene Gesserit. Here, she meets his daughter, Reverend Mother Rebecca, who has gained her other memory without Bene Gesserit training, and Lucilla shares the memories from Lampadas with her. However, Rabbi plans to betray Lucilla to the Honored Matres as a means of safeguarding their survival and reputation. Shiana is now a Reverend Mother, and she is currently in her workroom at the Desert Watch Station, struggling with her artwork. She contemplates about the sandworms and her role in the grand scheme of things. She fights with her desires, having become entangled in a secret relationship with Duncan, but Merbella got in the way, with whom he has 3 children now. Together, they are plotting to run away from the Bene Gesserit, but even if they manage to do so, she is uncertain of where they could find refuge. In Central, Belanda wants to talk with Odrade about Duncan, but she seems distracted. There are concerns that Idaho might have the memories of all the previous Golas, and the sisterhood worries about the dangers posed by his offspring with Merbella. If she survives the agony and becomes a Reverend Mother, they plan to find out from her if the Honored Matres evolved from the Bene Gesserit. They aspire to integrate Honored Matres' physical prowess into the Bene Gesserit's breeding program. Following this, Tamerlane comes in and reports that she suspects Scytale of withholding crucial information from them. Duncan wanders around the nose ship, thinking about the threat of the Honored Matres. He worries about Bene Gesserit's suspicion regarding his multi-generational memories. While grappling with the complexities of his alliance with Shiana, a vision in the Great Hold startles him, leading to an encounter with an old couple in an orchard. As he snaps out of that vision, he encounters Odrade, informing him that Shiana wishes to discuss God Emperor Leto's role in her Missionaria Protectiva. She confronts him about his multiple Gola memories, suspecting Tleilaxu has used cells from multiple Golas to create him. Ultimately, she asks him to be her personal mentat, and he accepts but requests unrestricted access to their computers, which she pledges to bring up in council. Meanwhile, Scytale is walking around his part of the nose ship, doubting the Bene Gesserit's commitment to the Great Belief. He plans on using the nullentropy tube implanted in his chest to rebuild the Tleilaxu, as it contains the cells of Paul, Cheney, Halleck, Stilgar, and various other Atreides members. He yearns for his face dancers and servants, blaming the Sisterhood for the destruction of Dune and Tleilaxu planets. He is aware that Odrade continues to press him for technical details on axolotl tanks, because even though they have the technology, they still do not know how to artificially create the spice. He reflects on the possibility of meeting Duncan Idaho in private and utilizing the Gola whistling signal to take control over him. As anticipated, Reverend Mother Lucilla has been betrayed, and now stands confined in a cage before the imposing presence of Great Honored Matre. The cage serves as a protection for her more than anything, just in case she tries to use the voice, which can potentially trigger violent reactions from the guards. Next to her, there's also a cage with a foodar, a hybrid between a human and a feline, created in the past by the Tleilaxu. She fears that Dama wants to toy with her first before letting the futar kill her. Grappling with the onset of melange withdrawal, Lucilla contemplates taking her own life before that happens, but the countless Reverend Mothers from within urge her to remain hopeful. Dama decides to release her from the cage for the moment, offering her food and melange drink as they discuss the Bene Gesserit's involvement with the Tleilaxu and the Missionaria Protectiva, as well as their insights into God Emperor Leto and his predictions. As the discussion concludes, she leaves her alone in her cage, with the conversation to resume the next day. Odrade regularly dines with the acolytes to assess Chapterhouse's true state. During the meal, she decides to visit Shiana and start grooming her to replace the old Tamerlane on her council. A nervous acolyte eventually gathers enough courage, reporting the urgent need to either save or abandon the orchards near the central Chapterhouse due to the approaching desertification. As she thinks about this, Odrade's thoughts are flooded by a vision of a Thopter training incident. She finally responds to the question with humor and realizes that the time has come to use Duncan Idaho. Later, Odrade, accompanied by Belanda and Tamerlane, roams Chapterhouse, discussing about the scattering and the concept of infinity. Belanda expresses concern about Duncan's potential danger, insisting that if they won't eliminate him, they should at least cease using him as a mentat. Audrey defends his abilities and brushes off their concerns, revealing her plan to use Duncan to restore Miles Tegg's memories. She plans to make Miles the leader of their elite special forces. Merbella, feeling lost after a meeting with Mother Superior, questions her identity. She wants to be true to herself, despite being taught to cheat her whole life. She struggles between her commitment to the sisterhood and her past as an honored matress, but she wants to be like them, so she continues to practice. Struggling with concentration, she falls during practice, just as Idaho enters the room and catches her. She starts to feel sick, and Audrey comes to see her, advising her on how to reconcile with her decisions. Merbella finally admits that she wants to be like her, and she is left alone in her room to rest. On the No ship, Sightale is walking around the corridor whistling, trying to get everyone used to the sound. Recalling a past interaction with Audrey, he realizes that she values his life greatly, but he still doesn't trust her, even though she decided to provide him with some stimulant drinks. He reflects on the former empire's unity, held together by trading and the Great Convention. As he returns to his room, he laments the loss of his faction and vows retribution. Audrey wanders around Chapterhouse again, skipping her practice session for contemplation. She fears that the Bene Gesserit are losing their moral compass and starts to worry that she might be losing her humanity. This comes from constantly trying to think like an honored matress, but she realizes that the golden path is way more important than the survival of the sisterhood. She returns to her workroom, but just then the Reverend Mother Dortujla arrives on Chapterhouse from planet Buzzle. She brings news of a potential alliance with a group of handlers and footars who were genetically engineered by the Tleilaxu to hunt down the honored matress. The handlers appear to be human, even though at first, it gave the Reverend Mother the impression that they are face dancers. Despite the danger, Audrey sees potential in Dortujla's plan to lure the honored matress. She suggests using Junction as a meeting point and proposes submission, though she has no intention of doing so. On the 17th day of imprisonment, Lucilla tries to persuade the Futar to kill the great honored matre, but realizes that it requires a handler's command to kill. Moreover, the Futar reveals that she is poisonous, showing the burn on its lip. As Dama joins them in the room, they resume their discussion from the previous day, mostly political matters. They debate the Bene Gesserit's democratic principles, and the Futar begins to get fond of Lucilla, angering Dama, who ultimately kills her in a fit of rage. The whole day Audrey has been busy going through a multitude of recordings and Burzmali's final report, having a lot of questions on her mind. There are no signs from Dortujla yet, and together with Belanda and Tamerlane, they contemplate an attack on Junction, using Miles Tegg's memories to map the place. Ultimately, she decides to send out more agents to push for a meeting. After her two advisors leave the room, she tries to imagine what the great honored matre is like. She questions their sanity, noting their propensity for hysteria in the face of opposition, shown in the events on Arrakis. She also reflects on the origins of the honored matress, rooted in autocratic ideals, and she finally sees this as their ultimate vulnerability. Following this, she plans to go face Shiana about the absence of sandworms, despite the abundance of sand trout. Duncan stands on the training floor of the No ship accompanied by Miles Tegg, contemplating the task of restoring his memories. They talk about Miles's past life, cautioning him about the impending agony, both mental and physical, that memory restoration will bring. Duncan advises him to exercise caution, especially when it comes to trusting the Bene Gesserit, and he shares an anecdote involving a loyal dog. Miles Tegg grasps the underlying message that they, like the dog, are merely pawns in the hands of the Bene Gesserit. This story applies to Myrbella as well, who is listening at the door and warns Duncan that Belanda wouldn't like hearing him talk badly about the sisterhood. The two Golas continue their training, and Myrbella reflects on her evolving perspective, feeling increasingly estranged from her former kin. She feels more mature now, and despite her internal conflict, she recognizes the underlying value of the Bene Gesserit in comparison to the Honored Matres. After they finish their training, Idaho reminds Tegg of his Atreides lineage, emphasizing the importance of honor and integrity. He then resolves to seek counsel from Shiana for a more nuanced approach to restoring his memories. Later, Duncan is sitting at the console in the No ship, and he has the same vision about the old couple, making him wonder about the possibility of being Kwisatz Haderach, and he starts to fear what the Bene Gesserits might do should they uncover his true nature. As the vision fades away, his focus shifts to Myrbella, who has just walked into the room. He shares with her his concerns about potential tampering by the Tleilaxu and the consequences of the Bene Gesserit losing this war. Mother Superior begins her daily ritual of consuming the morning melange, a task she finds rather unpleasant. Strachey enters to change the desert map, prompting Odrade to ask about her understanding of the spice addiction, emphasizing the dangers of withdrawal. She orders the arrangements for the trip to Shiana's desert watch station. She wants Tamerlane and Strachey by her side on this journey and starts wondering about Duncan and Shiana's plans for restoring Miles Tegg's memories. She then sees a stack of reports on her desk and summons Belanda, leaving her in charge while she is gone. The rabbi finds himself overwhelmed by their circumstances, taking refuge in a no-room to evade the Honored Matres. Rebecca is also there trying to fight boredom, with the help of the other memory. They devise a strategy to ration their limited food supplies, calculating that it might sustain them for a full year, provided the machinery remains operational. A violent storm threatens to encase the entrance to their hiding place in cement-like ash, presenting both a shield from the pursuers but also a barrier to their escape. Meanwhile, life aboard the No ship begins to almost feel like a game for Duncan, drawing parallels between his own upbringing as a Gola and Miles Tegg, who is getting better with Shiana's help. The vast expanse of the ship fosters a semblance of freedom, yet he questions the reason for spending all those resources just to detain some individuals. Shiana had started to learn the Honored Matre techniques, and she continues to exchange information with Idaho on God Emperor Leto and the Bene Gesserit. Also, Duncan had recorded the memories of his previous lives on a computer and rigged it to automatically delete the data if necessary. The great Honored Matre sits in her new control tower on Junction as she relishes her nickname, the Spider Queen. Despite the memories of the tumultuous expulsion from planet Dur by Futars back to the old Empire, she manages to conjure a sense of security. Upon learning of Dor Tujla's arrival from Chapterhouse, she swiftly commands Logno to summon her. So far, Dama is happy with their success against the Bene Gesserit, and after the capture of Chapterhouse, everything will fall under their leisurely pursuit. Only the Ixians will be left, and she kind of regrets her decision to kill the two Ixian scientists yesterday just for seeking knowledge from her. She likes them for their order imposed upon the old empire and for starting to worship God Emperor Leto, also known by the name of Goldor. On Chapterhouse, as Odrade is heading south towards the desert, in a vehicle holding 15 passengers, she notices the difference in landscape since her previous visit. Before their departure earlier that morning, she had been informed of the destruction of 4 more planets by the Honored Matres, leaving only 12 left. Their journey includes a stop at Pondril, where representatives of the town asked Odrade for assistance in combating the drought threatening their orchards, but she denies their request, suggesting alternative measures. Belanda seizes the chance during Odrade's trip to venture into the No Ship with the intent of eliminating Duncan. She finds him at the No Ship's console, and when he sees her, he opens a door behind him, allowing young Miles Tegg to join him. She is surprised that Merbella is not there and starts questioning Idaho, hoping to get some insights. Admitting his Tleilaxu origins, but denying that he's the Kwisatz Haderach, Duncan unveils his memories of past lives. He then calls Belanda a hypocrite and argues that he's indispensable, warning of the imminent threat posed by the Honored Matres. She slowly begins to realize his importance as a mentat, acknowledging the injustice of withholding information from such a mind. Belanda regrets her initial thoughts of killing Idaho, realizing that he's worth more than she ever thought. Just before her exit, he reveals that Merbella remains oblivious regarding Futars hunting her kin. Following her departure, he expresses gratitude towards Miles Tegg for standing silently by his side. Without his support, the Reverend Mother might have tried to kill him. He perceives this moment as a temporary win and an opportunity to forge a different dynamic with the sisterhood, perhaps extending his life a little longer. Seeking out Merbella after her training session, he tells her about the sisters' plans to create a new religion centered around Shiana. Sharing his recent encounter with Belanda, Merbella vows never to collaborate with the sisterhood if they hurt him, and they end up sharing an intimate moment in the shower. Following breakfast, Odrade and her followers continue their journey, but news arrives that the road ahead is blocked by sand dunes. She orders Tamerlane to arrange for Thopters to meet them there, and they fly towards the Desert Watch station. When they arrive, Odrade confronts Shiana regarding her secret plans with Duncan, but she is only partially truthful, revealing that they plan to run away only if the Honored Matres were to attack. Amidst this exchange, the laborers announce the discovery of a spice blow, prompting Odrade to leave this discussion for another time, leaving Shiana with quite a few secrets untold. One night, Merbella is startled awake by a haunting dream, with Duncan also waking up to comfort her. Just that morning, she had disclosed to Belanda her proficiency in 9 languages, leading to her linguistic heritage study. Duncan enlightens her, revealing that these linguistic exercises are deliberate attempts to sever unconscious ties to past traumas. The sisterhood won't trust her with more advanced training unless she learns how to use language as a mechanism of control. Their conversation veers towards his plan with Shiana to revive Miles Tegg's memories and the moral complexities of the Bene Gesserit. Merbella is filled with a sense of unease as she begins to contemplate the implications of becoming a Reverend Mother. It took a couple of months to get Shiana approved as Tamerlane's replacement. During Odrade's absence, Belanda has been on watch, handling tasks such as briefing the Bene Gesserit bound for the scattering, even though Duncan told her this whole thing might be useless. Merbella is expecting her baby in 8 days, and Odrade believes she is ready for her trial after giving birth. Shiana's daily reports consistently show no signs of worm activity, with the spice mass remaining intact. Also, there's still uncertainty surrounding her and Duncan's strategy to trigger Miles Tegg's memories through imprinting. Mother Superior brings Sightale to her workroom, and together with Tamerlane they question him about his departure from Bandalong during the attack. He admits that they were betrayed by their own people who returned from the scattering, and the only 2 Futars they had didn't attack the Honored Matres because they had no handlers to give the order. News comes in that the spice blow has occurred, accompanied by the emergence of sandworms. Odrade remarks to Sightale that he has lost a bargaining chip, but he dismisses it as a mere ploy. Moments later, Shiana bursts into the room with a miniature sandworm on a suspensor pod, announcing there are thousands of them. Sightale gazes in astonishment at the scene, acknowledging Shiana's remarkable ability to control them. Grappling with the sudden turn of events, he realizes that the tables have turned, but Odrade proposes an alliance against the Honored Matres. All she wants from him is to help perfect the axolotl tanks. He accepts, but insists on having his own face dancers and tanks, to which Odrade pledges to bring this request before the council. She arranges for his return to the No ship, and then she starts discussing the transformation of Chapterhouse into a new Dune. With all of this happening, if Merbella survives the agony and Miles Tegg's memories are restored, they might have a chance against the Honored Matres. Later, she goes to the No ship to meet Merbella, and she finds her in the training room practicing. She has modified the controls to evoke a sense of anger, to which Odrade accuses her of seeking an adrenaline rush. Despite Merbella's newfound prowess, Mother Superior stresses her ignorance of the true responsibilities of a Reverend Mother and the Sisterhood's expectations of her. She faces a pivotal decision between Duncan and her allegiance to the Sisterhood. Even though she is reluctant to choose, Odrade still decides to continue training her, secretly hoping that her love for Duncan will steer them toward a transformative future. Emphasizing the significance of the sisterhood in a Reverend Mother's life, she encourages Merbella to brace herself for some more advanced training, assigning Shiana as her next coach. Miles Tegg's memory restoration procedure begins on the same day Merbella goes into labor. He is escorted naked into a sealed chamber, with Odrade and Duncan witnessing from outside as Shiana begins the process. The inherited resistance against imprinting triggers his memory restoration, prompting him to get away from Shiana using his super speed ability. Following this, they give him back his clothes, and Stray G brings the news that Duncan has another daughter, with both mother and child in good health. As they bring him the much-needed food after using his ability, Miles Tegg explains that he has no memory of what happened on Gamu. He just remembers that in 1 second, he was able to kill everyone and get out of the No ship. Odrade contemplates the implications of his unleashed potential and reveals that they currently have 2 million troops specially trained by Burzmali. Miles requests to be left alone with Duncan to strategize against the Honored Matres, and he shares with him that both of them might potentially be Kwisatz Haderach. The day on which Dorjula returns to Chapterhouse is a bad one for Odrade, as she finds herself grappling with a series of challenges. A discussion on weaponry with Miles Tegg yields no clear resolution. Merbella hits a wall in her philosophical contemplation, and now she finds herself in a heated debate with Belanda and Shiana. She orders the best dinner possible for everyone, hoping it will uplift the spirits. An acolyte messenger comes in and announces the arrival of Dorjula, who appears to be sick. Mother Superior swiftly commands for her to be escorted to her workspace and requests Tamalane's presence as well. Arriving with a noticeable limp and leaning on a cane, she informs Odrade of her successful arrangement for a meeting with the Spider Queen on Junction, scheduled in 100 days. This deal assures safe passage to Junction for Mother Superior and a select group of 5, but she suspects that in reality, it's a trap. When asked about her condition, the Reverend Mother says that they performed experiments on her. Odrade assigns Sook the duty of tending to the injured Reverend Mother and accommodates her in a guest chamber within her own quarters. She summons Miles Tegg and instructs Tamerlane to arrange a council meeting to prepare for the upcoming war. Miles suggests a strategic diversion at Gamu, coupled with an offensive strike on Junction. His strategy involves encircling the targets with fold space sensors designed to detonate upon contact. Even though Belanda expresses her skepticism at first, Odrade agrees and grants him a 90-day period for preparation. She heads to a cafeteria designated for Reverend Mothers, where she's followed by Belanda, who shares that Tamerlane and Shiana will join them shortly. Belanda looks remarkably put together, and she has lost some weight, confessing to Odrade that Shiana has been urging her to prioritize self-care and expand her social circle. Just as Tamerlane and Shiana arrive, the Mother Superior reveals that Merbella will soon go through her trial of becoming a Reverend Mother. Odrade decides to bring Tamerlane and Dorjula along to Junction. She plans to team up with Belanda, while Tamerlane will share with Shiana. Tamerlane will serve as a judge for whatever secret Shiana is concealing, and though she draws back in fear when she hears this, she cannot defy Mother Superior's command. With tears in her eyes, she reluctantly complies, comforted by Tamerlane's reassurance that everyone harbors fears and sometimes acts unwisely because of them. Although she keeps Shiana's secret from Odrade, Tamerlane can be fully trusted as she would never betray the sisterhood. It is the day of Merbella's agony, a day shrouded in cloudy skies with rain looming on the horizon, but Odrade pushes aside thoughts of ominous signs. Ever since their sharing, Tamerlane and Shiana have merged into a single entity, a rare occurrence and usually a sign of an imminent death. Belanda speculates on Merbella's slim chance of survival and questions Odrade about the fate of their plans should she perish, to which the Mother Superior replies that they will share with her before she dies. Also, Duncan is allowed to assist because Odrade believes Merbella's affection for him might serve as a lifeline. He's the third man after Paul Atreides and God Emperor Leto to ever witness this ritual. They go to the No ship where Merbella awaits. She is escorted to a small amphitheater with a table at its center. Shiana brings in Duncan, Odrade readies the table, and Belanda fetches the Sook tasked with administering spice essence. Mother Superior imparts her last tips, and then it begins. As the essence courses through Merbella, she initially perceives only a burning sensation in her stomach, but soon succumbs to convulsions as the agony intensifies. Her consciousness drifts to a vision, and the excruciating ordeal reaches its highest point. A kiss from Duncan grounds her in reality, prompting her to question the endurance of her love for him amidst the chaos. Expressing satisfaction at Merbella's resilience, Odrade orders her garments removed, replacing them with a robe more fitting for a Reverend Mother. As time goes on, Duncan immerses himself in his mentat abilities, dedicating as much time as possible to being with Merbella, but there's a sense of growing distance between them. She spends a lot of time with her other memory because the Bene Gesserit needs insights about their enemy from her. Even so, Merbella is hoping for another pregnancy. Duncan has a vision of the weapon arsenal housed within the No ship, envisioning a breakthrough in miniaturizing Holzman generators. He swiftly documents his revelation and shares it with Belanda and Odrade. Even in waking moments, the image of weapons persists, interrupted only by glimpses of the elderly couple. Duncan discerns the blueprint for Miles Tegg's future attack, using a small Holzman generator and a lost gun. In the common room area of the No ship, a Bene Gesserit gathering unprecedented in size awaits Mother Superior's convocation. Belanda offers a brief introduction before Odrade discloses the imminent meeting on Junction with the Honored Matres leadership, foreseeing her potential demise. This encounter serves as a mere distraction as the strategy entails a strategic maneuver at Gamu, then seizing control of Junction. Odrade plans to send information from ground level to Miles Tegg during the assault. Additionally, she intends to share with Shiana and Merbella just in case she is going to die. Next, Miles Tegg explains his plan to everyone and explains that if Odrade manages to verify his prior knowledge of the terrain, they can pinpoint the position of their enemy. 8 days were spent meticulously orchestrating Odrade's departure, aligning it perfectly with Miles Tegg's imminent attack. Taking counsel from everyone, she bids farewell before embarking on the No ship. 19 hours from Junction, they switch to a lighter for the remainder of the journey, with Odrade being taken aback to discover that their pilot is a cyborg. Landing on a desolate plain, they proceed towards the former guild building, which had changed a little, confirming Miles Tegg's suspicions. The fleet emerges from the depths of space above Gamu, and with decisive orders, Miles Tegg sets in motion the plan. His troops advance, swiftly dispatching those lingering behind, while others scatter in confusion. They land on the planet's surface where they discover Bene, the capital. After the job is done and the commander prepares to issue the retreat command, Merbella interrupts, conveying intel about Jewish refugees and the surprising presence of 4 Futars. Shiana returns to her previous post in the Desert Observatory, pondering the possibility of embracing the Sandtrout and taking the path that God Emperor Leto took. She ultimately decides against it, dreading the potential consequences of a religion centered on her. Wally, her former assistant and now the watch station's leader, offers assistance by transporting some of the worms to the No ship. Shiana is looking for the next planet, and she wants to find one with moons. On Junction, Odrade experiences a mixture of frustration and amusement as the Honored Matres keeps her waiting in the lobby, occupying herself with the small robots present in the area. When a robot attempts some small talk, she brushes it off, questioning the necessity of programming mechanical beings to mimic humans, a practice Tamerlane deems distasteful. This leads Odrade to reflect on the underlying prejudice that fueled the Butlerian Jihad. As more robots arrive with their luggage, she commands the auto-receptionist to lead them to their quarters, finding its overly apologetic voice repulsive. Along the way, she observes that much of the area is closed off and neglected, indicating that individuals under the Honored Matres' influence likely avoid drawing attention through travel. Later, Odrade is escorted to meet the Great Honored Matre. Upon arrival at a command center, clearly staged for her arrival, she meets Dama and her assistant. Odrade accompanies her outside for a walk and notices the heavy perfume enveloping her. She finds herself pleasantly surprised by Dama's intellect and disciplined demeanor. Odrade tells her that holding her hostage wouldn't serve much purpose, as the sisterhood already has 3 substitutes ready. Dama boasts about the Honored Matres' ability to easily defeat them, but Odrade warns that such an act would only lead to a festering wound that will eventually consume them. The discussion goes back and forth, highlighting that engaging the Bene Gesserit in combat would leave the Honored Matres vulnerable. Dama suggests continuing the conversation in her quarters. As they walk, Odrade wonders if the Gamu assault was a success and questions the consequences of unleashing Miles Tegg. Dama is visibly tense and discloses that the cyborg pilot opted for self-destruction along with the ship rather than face inspection. There's a psychological war game between the two of them, trying to find each other's true intentions. Dama detects the signal emitted by Odrade, but she is told that it's just a signal to let her sisters know that she is still alive. Logno enters with wine, assuring the guest that it's not poison, but with a single sip, Odrade detects a substance aimed at neutralizing her ability to share. After drinking, Dama lashes out at Logno, shattering her glass as she rushes outside, leading Odrade to deduce that the Great Honored Matre has been poisoned. Logno reveals Dama's treacherous intentions to eliminate the Bene Gesserit, but now she is the new leader and she has better plans. The Battle of Junction begins, with Merbella witnessing the unfolding events from her No ship's control hub. Miles Tegg's troops emerge triumphant, and he locates Odrade, but a peculiar unease grips both of them. The whole battle was too easy, and with the Honored Matres' surrender, they suspect a potential trap, maybe a secret weapon they haven't discovered yet. With the help of the Ixian weapon, the Honored Matres manages to turn the tide of the war, sitting on the winning side now. Odrade and Miles Tegg had fallen for this trap, and they are now captives on Junction. Merbella decides to descend to ground level in a lighter after witnessing Strage's demise, with Miles Teg and O'Drade seeing this on the command center screens. She transmits her Honored Matres identification in advance, yet she still encounters a squadron upon arrival. Facing their leader, Elpec, she lies about an escape from the Bene Gesserit after she has found all their secrets. When someone dares ask her a question, Murbella swiftly kills her, leaving everyone else in silence. Escorted to the presence of the great Honored Matre, she confronts her, and when Logno tries to attack, Murbella swiftly takes her out without much effort. At the same time, Elpec kills O'Drade, leading Murbella to share with her in her final moments, managing to absorb her memories. She easily kills Elpec, and she then commands the cleanup of the room and the release of Miles Teg, appointing Angelica, the Honored Matre who delivers her new robe, her first member of the new council. She remembers that O'Drade liked apples, so she orders for her to be buried beneath an apple tree. Murbella, now the leader of both factions, selects her council members and journeys back to Chapterhouse, sending a message that she is bringing some futars to attract handlers. The combination of the two was the mysterious weapon that brought so much fear into the Honored Matres. The following day, she sits in Mother Superior's chamber, instructing Belanda to arrange a meeting with the council. Declaring herself both Mother Superior and the Great Honored Matre, she asserts her authority over the Bene Gesserit. Addressing both parties, she wants to bridge the gap between Reverend Mothers and Honored Matres, envisioning a future where those two factions will become one. She orders that Scytale and the Rabbis group must be kept under wraps for now, and as she reflects on the inevitable loss of Duncan, she realizes what is he planning. Meanwhile, Duncan stirs up unrest among the Bene Gesserit sisters aboard the No ship by discussing Murbella's behavior, and Shiana persuades them to follow into the scattering. Scytale, Miles Teg, and the Jews are also departing from Chapterhouse with them. Duncan, again, has the vision of the old couple, Daniel and Marty, who are revealed as face dancers. He decides to wipe his memories from the computer, and as the data fades away, so does the vision of the old couple. Following this, Shiana expresses frustration over his decision to delete the memories, but he reassures her that he remembers everything. Murbella and Belanda feel the tremors coursing through Central as the No ship launches, but it's too late. There is nothing they can do to stop them. Watching the No ship fly away, Murbella hears O'Drade's voice, asking her if she can see what are they planning to do. From Paul Atreides to God Emperor Leto, to the Honored Matres and the Bene Gesserit, now Shiana represents the next phase.